Hi everyone, I'm back for day 3 of my 14-day sprint in where I'm sharing tips every day to help other aspiring writers. So just to quickly recap on day 1 and day 2, tip 1 and tip 2 obviously. We first of all looked at how to develop a prompt to get your writing started in the first place. And this idea was about finding a title prompt from somewhere. So whether it be the internet, ChatGPT, the dictionary, wherever you want to get it from, how you can start that title prompt and start your story. And so that was day 1. And with this day 1, we don't look at grammar, we don't look at editorial stuff, we don't look at any structures, we just get on and start brainstorming. Day number 2, we looked at how you can take that prompt and how you can take those ideas that you've got and how you can really pad that out to create some kind of plot. And in this plot, you'll have ideas about characters, narration, duration of your story. You'll be looking at all different general sort of thoughts and ideas, but not in any development phase at this point. It's very much brainstorming exercise. So now we're at day number 3, which is tip number 3, and we're going to be looking at how you can move this forward on some kind of development front. And now we can start adding a little bit of structure, but not too much. I still don't want you to focus on polishing or anything like that, and polishing any stories or anything like that at the moment, because it's still very much a brainstorming exercise. So for this part, what I'd like you to think about doing if you're at this stage is to really think about how you can develop a beginning, a middle and an end. So just putting something down in some short context, maybe 100 words on each section of how you can start building that story. And I'm going to give you an example of this. So yesterday we looked at a title prompt called Finding Steve. Poor Steve, he gets dragged around everywhere. But Finding Steve, I used an example of what I've done before, of how I went to a spiritualist church and there was a spiritualist there trying to find Steve, and calling him in, where's Steve, where are you Steve, come to us Steve, sort of thing. And that made me think about how I could create a story around this Finding Steve. From then I looked at how we can sort of plot that out even more in terms of what the plot might look like, what feelings I got from this, what senses I got from this, what research have I done to understand how you can find missing people and all the rest of it. So that was the idea of what we looked at over the last couple of days. But with the beginning, the middle and the ending on tip 3, I want to really sort of pad out this Finding Steve thing as an example. So just backtracking a little bit, because I think I digressed a little bit. So with Finding Steve, so the beginning bit is about thinking, right, I want to do a supernatural thriller. I want to look at that sort of element, but I want Steve to actually be alive. I don't want him to actually die. So at the ending, it's going to be a way of finding out that Steve's actually alive. He's not actually dead in the first place. And the middle bit is going to be about finding all these little clues and information of where Steve is and what built up to it, everybody thinking that he's actually dead. When actually at the end, it's just at home. And that's where he's been the whole time, in a different place. So building that up, you can see how you can start to build a beginning, a middle and an end. It's very blank at the minute, it's very samey, but as you go through the rest of the tips, you'll be able to pad that even more to create a bigger story. Now, in this point, you can sort of think about how you're going to tell that story. So is it going to be in first person, second person or third person narration? And if you're not sure what's the difference, I'll just quickly go through it. So first person is about how you're talking through the group as through the book as a character. So if you're a character in a book and you're speaking as that character in the book and they're telling the story, then that's first person narration. Second person narration is a little bit more complicated because you're not actually in the book at all. So second person narration is somebody speaking almost in first person about the book itself, about the story. So a second person narration is an actual narrator outside of the book. The third person narration is when you're writing the story as somebody looking inwards into the book, so you're able to be more descriptive about the story and the characters without actually writing as one of them. So that's how the narration sort of forms. Once you've looked at that and narration styles, you know, you might have already have your idea in mind of what genre you want to go down. I picked supernatural thriller. You might want to pick something, if it's Finding Steve, it might sound a bit more comical. You might want to do a comedy or something. You may want to think about doing a romance. But these things are all the things you can start thinking about at this point, but not necessarily commit to. And you could do 1 or 2 different examples of beginnings, middles and ends as well. You can trial it out in different narration forms and different sort of genres and different styles to see how it feels for you, because it could be that you feel like you want to go down one certain route and you're one type of writer, but actually you might find that you really enjoy another form of writing. I love supernatural thriller, but I do like the odd comical part of writing as well. I have done an ebook which was a romantic comedy, and I really enjoyed writing that, so you might surprise yourself. So that's where this part fits in, and I think this will help you to start thinking that you're actually building on your idea, because the first 2 tips that I mentioned are very explorative, they're very messy. It is a hot creative mess, I think I've described it as before, which is great. I love this bit. But some people might find this a bit too messy, a bit too like you're not really getting anywhere. So that's fine. Everybody's different. Everybody's writing journey is different. If you're finding that, stick with it though, because when you get to this part where you're actually starting to do your beginning, your middle and your end, you'll really see you can start building on some structure here. So that's my tip for today. So my tip is, just to reiterate, is to start putting something into place, some idea into place of how it might look as a story by the end, but just on a basic level. So beginning, middle, end, and some general ideas of how you want to structure that in terms of narration styles, maybe throw in a couple of characters, but don't go into too much detail at this point. Thanks for listening, and thanks for my day 3. I'll see you tomorrow for day 4.